Okay, everybody, we are going to pick up with Daf Lamed Aleph today. Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud. Zeh oimer shalavoisai, v'zeh oimer shalavoisai. We're talking about a Maisa. This is also an incident we're going to see in Amud Beis where he brought Adam later, so it's very clear this is a Maisa Shahaya. We're continuing. That what happened, each one comes with a claim, this land belonged to my forefathers. I see Sadi Davasahi. The challenger, the one who is trying to say he's the Marikami, is able to show up with witnesses who are testifying that Taka, the land, used to belong to their Zaydas. While the person who's in the land currently, he's able to show up with witnesses who clearly established that he was there for 3 years. However, he doesn't have Edom about the Avasai, about his forefathers. So Amar Rabba, Mali l'shaker. He has a migu. What's Mali l'shaker mean? Why? He doesn't have no reason to lie. Because if he was lying, if he really wanted, he could have told them straight out, Minach zavinte, I bought it from you. Therefore what? In that taina, there's no argument that taina you're fully believed. Because by me, as long as I have a chazak and I say I bought it from you, there's no way out. So therefore I'm believed to claim that what? That I was Yerisha. What's his taina? His taina is, I know one thing. My father gave it to me, and I'm right here for sure for 3 years. However, he doesn't have a taina of that I bought it directly from the person who's trying to complain that it was his land.
So what kind of a taina is this? Is it because
it's a migu.
of Shemitah?
No, it's nothing to do with Shemitah. He's trying to say is Reuven's in the land currently. He's there for 3 years at least, minimum. There's Edom that he was there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, just establish the facts. If I would come over to you, Reuven, and say, please get out of my field, as long as you answer a taina, like we saw many times in Mishnah Memalav, as long as you have a taina that I bought it from you, are you believed with a chazaka? Yes, you have a chazaka and you have a taina. I'm out, no matter what I say. There's no way around it. What's sticky over here? The stickiness is over here is that my complaint is that this used to belong, I'm not only that, I'm producing witnesses, that this was my land up to generations.
So he sold it. I mean, what's...
There we go. So wait a second. Right, but you're not able to produce witnesses that it's from your land. So how did you get this land? What's your taina back? How did you get this land? That's the issue. So your only answer is, right, he has a very weak claim. His weak claim is that what? That he's trying to say is, it is my father's. It was my father's also. He's lying. Somebody's lying. Let's clarify this. I'm saying it belonged to me for many generations. You're saying it belonged to you for many generations. I'm able to produce witnesses. You're not able to produce witnesses. Can we establish the facts? In such a case, do we kick you out of the field? Definitely. What's the problem over here is that you have a chazak. So with your chazak, you have something called a migu. Because you could easily say that I bought the land from you. And then you would be believed. So that's where migu comes into play. It's that when you have a very weak taina.
So chazak and migu go hand in hand?
Chazaka creates the migu. It's not the chazaka and migu go hand in hand. Is that since there's a chazaka, now you have a migu. Migu is basically, I could taina A. Believe me, my weaker claim. This is a basic understanding of migu. Believe me on my weaker claim, even though it sounds very weak, right? However, because I could have easily said a stronger claim. Why do you think my claim is not true when I say a weak claim? You look at me as a liar. But if I was a liar, would I use a better complaint that there's no way out? That's the thing called migu. So over here you have a migu, even though you're saying it's a very weak claim, but you're saying it's his father's. He's producing witnesses that it was also his father's. What's going on? But you have a chazaka that could create a migu.
One of them is bringing witnesses.
One of them is bringing witnesses that it was their father's. That's the scenario. Reuven has witnesses that it was his father's.
He's not bringing a witness that he owns the land. He's bringing a witness that it belonged to the father.
Correct, but that the same thing goes the opposite. They're both saying someone's lying. If Reuven and Shimon are arguing about if it belonged to their Zaydas, then somebody's not saying the truth. So therefore, Amar Rabba Mala Shaker, he has a migu. Why? Because he bought therefore he's believed. Amar Abaya which was Rabba's Talmud said, no, this is what's bothering you, Jack. He's saying, Mala Shaker b'maki meidim le'amrina. What's your migu? Your migu can't go against witnesses. Let's clarify this. There are witnesses saying that Reuven's fathers owned the land. There's witnesses. So your migu can't say, let's believe his taina that there are witnesses that his father also belonged to the land because of a migu, but that's going against witnesses. So migu b'makim edim lo yamrina. Do we understand why it's a
But
migu
they're
makim
not- They're
edim?
not bringing, the Adis isn't saying that he owns the land.
What's the edus?
The
Let's
Adis is
clarify
saying
this.
that his forefathers owned the land.
And what am I saying?
The same thing.
The same thing. So that's where the argument becomes. Who does it belong to? We're not considering today. Chazaka only creates a migu. Doesn't help you have a chazaka. Let's clarify this. It doesn't help your chazaka if a taka belonged to the forefathers and his father would just ended up taking it. Doesn't help. Correct? So we have a chazaka. So the only winning tiny is going to be who's believed to say it was their forefathers. One Abaya says you have Adam saying it for sure belonged to his Adam. I have a complaint that I should be believed like Adam because of my migu. That doesn't work. My migu is establishing that my tiny of what I said that it belongs to my forefathers is true. That's how Abaya understands it. If so, it can't go against Adam. Okay. Again, Tosfos is masber that we're not saying that that my Zayda bought it from your Zayda. We're both sticking to the guns that this was my land for thousands of years. And you're saying this was your land for thousands of years, and you proved it with witnesses. That we first have to establish what is the core argument. What is the core argument to understand the Gemara? The core argument is who's believed to say it was their forefathers. We're not talking about today, because Chazaka doesn't help today. Chazaka can only help for one thing, migu. Okay. Now,
Helps what?
Chazaka only helps for migu because Chazaka doesn't create a taina. Chazaka only establishes that when you have a taina, you're believed with Chazaka. We went through this in the past few blocks. The Chazaka itself is not strong enough to pull out land. It's not a proof. Chazaka is a support. Remember we went through that? Chazaka just supports your taina to say now we'll believe your taina. But Chazaka itself can't pull out a land out of somebody else. Okay. Now, Hadar Amar Le, Rabba Taka agreed. Rabba said, you know what, it makes sense. There's Adam on one side. Migu is not strong enough, right?
Again, how do you define migui, the word itself?
The word migu means I could have used a stronger complaint. Stronger argument, sorry. And with that strong argument, would I have definitely been believed?
Yes.
Yes. So what are you trying to tell me? That my weak argument is not believable? If I want, then you're calling me a liar, right? But I come and say, I could have told you X, Y, Z, and you say, doesn't smell right, go prove it. I could have easily told you that it was mine and we wouldn't have this discussion. That's what migu does. So Rabbah, Taka concurred with Taka's Talmud Abaya, and he ruled like the person who came with the Edom of Avasai. However, Hadar Amalei, the current occupier told the challenger he suddenly changed his mind. He changed his tune very quickly when he saw Rabbah. He didn't think Abaya is going to be able to knock down his Rebbe. Rabbah was his Rebbe, Abaya was his Talmud, and they bring down, how do we know that it was Bechlal? On the Rashbam says, how do we know that Abaya was Chayzer, that Rabbah was Chayzer? He says, from the Lashon, Dikanami, it says, Amar le Abaya v'leika Amar Abaya Amar. The Rashbam says it's Meduyik because it says Amar le Abaya. It sounds like that he agreed to him. Okay. So he quickly changed his tune. He didn't like what was going on. He says, no, that's not what I meant. In the Avasochi, you're right, it was, no question, it was your forefathers. However, I bought it from the Zayde. Suddenly, whoa, he's changing his tune. Or Zavinta Menach, I bought it from you. Whatever it is. So the question is, oh, then what were you thinking? You should have just said, I bought it from your fathers. You know why I said that sprach? The Samech Le'alak Avasi. I felt so secure that it's mine, just like when someone owns a land for thousands of years, he's quite confident he's not going to lose it. So too over here, I thought it was my land, I was so secure about it. Now, so the question is as follows. Now, what's the argument of the Gemara? There's a concept called Toyin Chayzer V'Toyin. To lay down the ground rules, there's no such a thing as clearly L'Kula Amma saying a complaint of Bezdin and changing your tune. It's not reality. Doesn't happen. You can't do that in Allah. However, where it gets gray, where it gets complicated, is when you're not totally reversing your original claim. However, you're trying to like answer it up. What?
Changing it?
You're right. You're not reversing, but you're trying to explain. We find that in appeals and court systems, anyone knows somewhat of a court systems. I deal with that a little in business. That regarding the state of New York, for example, when you're trying to bring a complaint or you're trying to bring evidence to the state for whatever reason for your business, the law is, this is a law in the state, is that you cannot bring on new evidence after you lost your court or when you're trying to appeal it. The only thing you can do is to explain what you meant in your original evidence. This is mamash halacha of ein tayin chayzer tayin. There's no such thing as changing what you said. You can't even add on in the state. However, but you could try to explain, what I meant to say when I was saying tayin A was X, Y, Z. So then it becomes very gray, right? Tayin v'chayzer v'tayin. That's the question, ein tayin chayzer v'tayin. Okay, right? So, is he reinterpreting what he said earlier? In this scenario, it's considered he just explaining what he meant earlier, and it's not a problem. Now, Dayamri, no. Therefore, it doesn't work because Ula says in this scenario, it's not so clear. He didn't explicitly say that it's not. We're going to see in a moment. Ula is going to agree to the ruling. We're going to see two qualifications needed. Ula is going to concede in a scenario. We originally said, however, he's stuck in veloi. The word loy shel aveisecha. When he said it's not your forefathers, then suddenly he's changing his tune, right? Then Avadi, we agree, it was very clearly that was his complaint. Another point is, if they were standing in the courtroom and they did not advance this quickly, the reinterpretation, rather, only he left best. He only went home. He went to the Kiddush club and he started telling them what happened, and all his friends, they were starting to give him wonderful ideas. He comes back a week later to Besdin. Oh, it's not what I meant. No. Ula says, you went, you left already. My time, why not? By the Kiddush club, they told you what to tell you. Your friend said, you know what? I'm a tayin. I'm a litigator. I know how to get out of this. Therefore, you are not believed. Okay, that's what the Rashbam explains. Your friends, your relatives gave you wonderful advice how to get out of it. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to explain also with Nardai. So we said Ula can be that Veloy, the word Veloy, and it can be that he left Pesach. Now Ula says, the other way around. Who bought it from your forefathers, then the Chayzer. Then he agrees that you're not at all changing anything. You're just meisiv. All you're really doing is adding to what he said. Therefore, it's not a problem, just an enhanced claim. And therefore, it is totally murti. He's basically saying, oh, what? My forefathers bought it. The chayzer v'tayin. Then it's not a problem because you're just adding. Now, we're going to learn in Mem Aleph. We're going to see in the Mishnah Mem Aleph regarding a Yairish. This is the sugyas of Yairish. We're going to see over there Yairish v'lakeach, that a person who's a Yairish is not required to explain how his father came to own it. Because the Gemara explains, a Yairish he's not involved in his father's business deals. Therefore, as long as the Yairish had it for 3 years, what do? Taninale means Bezdin is going to go step in and argue on his behalf. Okay. However, we're going to explain over there in Mem Aleph that the father needs, we saw this already in the Rashbam a little Lamanam base, that you need to have it for 1 day. The father's going to need, you're going to have to prove that your father was there for at least 1 day, and then we're doing Taninale. So the question becomes over here, why are we not mentioning this whole sugya of that we need to, he has to mention that but what happened to the 1 day? We learned this already in the Rashbam Lamanam base. We're going to see this extensively in Mem Aleph and Mem Aleph. What is going on over here? So Rashbam answers it in our sugya. The Rashbam says as follows. He says there's a basic difference between the sugya Mem Aleph and our sugya. In that scenario, the Yairish does not claim to know that his father purchased the land. He knows one thing. My father was there for a day, and then I'm here for a bunch of years. I don't know what's going on. Masha'inkin over here, the Irish is saying, I know definitely that my father purchased this land, therefore we don't need a Tanina lay. We're bringing out one point. The Rashban is bringing out one point. Our sugya, there's no sugya of Tanina lay, because he is saying that I bought this. I know for a fact that he bought it. If you look, it's the Rashban Bavgad the Gabi, Irish Kaim Elov Perkid, it's the sugya Mem Aleph. Here it's not a problem. Sharei Ton Taina Gmur Chazaka, which is going to work. Okay, I told you when we're starting Baba Basra, it's very interesting. So the Dapim are very short, but the Rashbam is very extensive. He's almost like the Mefarshim. When we learned the whole sugya till now, it's very short to the point. Rashi's the Rashbam throws in like sugyas that you usually see where Yushainim ask, like, oh, why is it different than sugyas Memalef? So we're going to try to say as much Rashbams as possible because the bletta are very short. We have more time to go through other more geshmak, upshatim, and add-ons. Okay. Umaydi nardai in that Syrian the chayziv time. Hechad ishtoi milav avroi v'loiton. What is the halacha? Nardai also concedes where he left the bestin and he didn't say taina, and then v'asle beidina the chayziv time. Wow, he argues. He says basically doesn't mean doesn't mean that he was in Bezdin like Ula said, that when you said a taina in Bezdin, when you went to the Kiddush Club and you come back a week later, that's not going to work. Nardai is saying a different scenario. Nardai is saying, what happens? I never picked up my hand, I never was sworn into oath, right? I never was sworn in. Outside Bezdin, I was telling you complaints. I was even telling, not only that, I was even telling your lawyers certain complaints. We're not going to get into, maybe illegally might be an issue. They have to present all evidence before. We're not going to get there. But the point is, Nardai wants to say is that a person has a right to say whatever he wants outside in Bezdin, to trip his opponent, and then when he comes into Bezdin, suddenly do a 180 and come with different tainas. Like that, he doesn't want to let his opponent know exactly what he's going to say in Bezdin. The Hechad in a case where they were just really discussing the claims not in Bezdin, and then the Chayz of time, my time, and then it does work. Avidinish, it's very normal. You wait till you get sworn into court, and then you give out your knockout punch. Why? Let your opponent know what you're going to say. Adka. Amar Mima says, I'm not Nardoi, no. I am be'etzem like Nardoi, and therefore I should not hold like Ula. However, Usfirli, the Tayin v'chayzer v'tayin like Ula. Wow. Okay. Now the Gemara. Taka paskins v'hochasa Tayin v'chayzer v'tayin. That's taka the halacha. Okay. So again, just to clarify, we're not going to hold, in summary, in a scenario where you're totally changing Taina A to Taina B, there's no machlekes whatsoever. Kula Amma holds you can't suddenly change your Taina whatsoever. However, the only question is, when you're adding information, it's not either machlekes. So when the two extremes, adding is mutter and totally changing is aser. Where's the dispute? The dispute is, can I reinterpret what I said originally in my first claim? Ula holds you could, and that's taka the halach. Another incident. Each one is saying, it was my land and my father, and I have a chazaka. Hi, I sisade davase. So now it gets very sticky. What's going on? Ruvain is saying it belonged to my Zayda and I have a chazak, and he's able to produce witnesses on both complaints. Shimon is saying I have a chazaka, and he's not able to produce witnesses that he was his father, but he's also saying that. Now, what is going on? We have two sets of witnesses. They're both saying contradictory stuff. They're both saying that they have a chazaka. So one of the peers are lying. You can't both. Someone's lying. We don't know what. We don't know who. Someone is lying. So what do we do then? Amar of Nachman. Uki achila lebahadi achila, uki ara becheska avase. You know what Rav Nachman says? A massive chiddush. Ruvain's set of Eidim is saying two separate things. Cheskas avase. Is anyone contradicting any Eidim saying otherwise? No. So that's a good Eidus. The Eidus of achila, which is getting contradicted by a different set of Eidim. What we do is we smash them into each other, and they both burst. Basically, right? It's like a game almost, like fireball. Since they're both saying contradictory tiny, it's like none of them have it. So according to Rav Nachman, we clearly see that what? Your original Eidos, even though someone's lying, we're both going to give you a cheskes kashrus to this Eidos. So to give a little more explanation, there's such a thing called Eidei Hazama. When it's a sugya Makis, beginning of Makis, where it talks about Eidei Hazama, means Reuven and Shimon both give an Eidos. Comes a different set of Eidos, and what are they saying? Imanu hayisem. It's impossible you're giving that testimony because you were with us. Min Torah. The Gemara questions is why does that believe? It's because there's a cost of a thing. It doesn't make too much sense why we believe a second pair more than the first, but that is the halacha. We believe the second pair over the first as long as they're saying Imanu hayisem. However, if they're not saying you were with us, rather they're saying contradictory to what happened, this is our sukkah. It's called Eidei Hachosh. So let's go through it. Amar Rav Nachman, it's not a problem. But the Cheskes Avos is going to stand. Amalei Rava, that can be. Ha'edis Mucheshesi, right? Because there was someone's lying about the testimony of the Avos. So we don't know who's lying. So since one peer is definitely lying, we're going to have to say there's no Cheskes Kashrus anymore. Amalei Rav Nachman said, you're right. Nehidis chachesh b'achilasa. Regarding the use of land, there was chachesh. One lamed aleph on the base, top of the almond. However, ba'avasa, it's kachesh. Regarding the testimony of the father, no one's argued that. So since it's uncontested, Rav Nachman would hold, he can maintain that it's a good Eidos. So the Gemara is going to try to explain this machlekes Rav Nachman that says you could rely on the Eidos of Avasei and Rava to a sugya in a different machlekes. Lema Rava Rav Nachman bepalukta de Rav Huna ve'Rav Chizda kemifli. Maybe they have machlekes regarding Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. The Itmar says as follows: Shtei kita edim hamachishas. Again, this is not hazama. It's not iman hayisem, but they're machish each other. Zu ed zu. Right? One peer is saying, for example, Reuven borrowed money on Sunday. Now, Shimon is saying that was set of Shimon. Let's call it the second set is saying Reuven didn't borrow money from them on Sunday because Reuven was with us in the water park. So it's impossible. However, they're not talking about the witnesses. They're talking about the person himself. Therefore, it's not Hazama, it's Hachosh. Now, so as follows. This is a scenario. Amar Rav Huna, Zu ba b'fnei atzmu ida, v'zu ba b'fnei atzmu meida. That means to say is, what is the halach? We got it. We have an Eidei Chasha. Let's say this a little outside. Overall, take the whole picture. There's 4 people in the room. One set said X, one set said Y. They're contradictory. It's out of 4 of these people. Are 2 of them liars?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. However, we don't know who's the liar. Since we don't know who's the liar, do you have a Cheskes Kashrus? Yes. Do that set have a Cheskes Kashrus? Yes. So Zokt Rav Huna, a big chiddush.
And in this case,
this case is out. It's called Eidus Mucheshes.
Does not believe right away.
No, they're both not believed because that's Eidei Chasha. The question is, we have one set, and another set, right? So we're 4 people in the room. Out of all 4, 2 of them are liars, right? We don't know which set. Now the question is, could you from one set and then a different person from a different set, which is connected the 2, can you go now and give Eidus in a week from now? The answer is no. Because overall in the picture, one of you, we don't know who, is a liar. However, each of you alone have a Cheskes Kashrus. So that's the halach. If we put together both of you together, you can't go be made. However, could the first set next week go give Eidos and be believed? Yes. Could the second set on its own give a different Eidos and be believed? Yes. So it's Cheskes Kashrus overrides as long as it's possible that one of you are not lying. But to put them together, mix is not going to work. So Rav Huna says, not a problem. Next week, the first pair could go and the second pair each on their own and give an Eidos. However, like I told you, you can't mix the 2. V'Chizda Amar, no. Bahadi Sahadi Shakri Lamali. If Chizda maintains as follows: we follow the status quo of the property. Therefore, we don't know who's the liar, right? none of you are believed. We knock out everybody. And therefore, what we do is, we do not take it, the karka away just because one set of paydim said cheskas avos. The whole edus falls apart because, let's be real, somebody is lying. We don't know who will knock out the entire edus. Rav Nachman, it sounds like. So let's go through it. Lema there at Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman had said earlier that the halacha is uki achila, we keep cheskas avos. Damer Karvuna, he holds like Karvuna. Just like later on a peer could go and give edus, who would then also over here. Regarding the Yerusha, it's a separate edus, so it's fine. The Rava holds like Rav Chisda. That what do we look at them? We look at their whole edus as sheker, and therefore it gets dissolved completely. The question really is, how do you look at cheskas havasa? Is it a separate entire edus like a week later or not? The Gemara says no. Ali b'le Rav Chisda, according to Rav Chisda, kulal amalei pli. Even Rav Nachman, who held that we would hold on to what cheskes avos, right, would still, according to Rav Chisda, would deny it, right? Because Madach Rav Chisda says a week later you can't go give edus. You're already not believed. You have a stamp against you says pasul. Kol shekein that edus itself, right? Regarding the cheskes avos, you're not believed. So what's the machlekes? Keep ligi ali with Rav Huna. This is according to Rav Huna. Rav Nachman Rav Huna. Rav Nachman taka holds like Rav Huna. Just like Rav Huna held, you could go in a week. So too he looks at this cheskes avos in the same time as like no different than a week. But you know what Rava's going to tell you? Rava's going to tell you, Ad kan lekam Rav Huna le'edus acheres. That's in a different week. It's an unrelated testimony. Ava la'oisa edus loy. Even Rav Huna is going to be maida in that same testimony that whole edus falls apart. Rav Huna is going to concede, a week later, a year later, you want to handle a different edus to have a cheskes kashus. But regarding this edus on its own, Avada v'Avadi is going to hold that the whole edus falls apart. Okay, so the way we look at it, basically the argument is it two parts of one larger testimony or not? Okay. Right? It's two chalakim of one big edus. Now, what happened was, in Echanami, we went like Rav Nachman earlier, and Rav Nachman said that what? It works, right? We take the cheskes avos. And so what did we do? We took the land, and who did we give it to? We gave it to the Aiden that was able to produce, that he had a chazaka and cheskes avos. That's what happened. After this person lost the case, he suddenly pulls up. Either it's the same witnesses or different witnesses, I'm not sure. But he brought witnesses that Taka, he also had witnesses that it was his father's land. So now they're on equal grounding. Wow. Okay, interesting. So Rashbam doesn't say if it was new witnesses or it was different witnesses, because in my head it should make a difference regarding Rav Huna or not. But he brought witnesses. Now what? We both have edus that you have cheskes avos, and you both have edus. So what do you do then? So Amar of Nachman, Ana nachtinon, Ana maskinon. We took it away, we put it back. So it's a machlokes, Rashbam and Tosfos. What is going on? According to Rashbam, we say Kol dalim gvar. However, Tosfos doesn't like this. Tosfos says we're not going to say Kol dalim gvar. Rather, what we say is that we're talking about that we took it away from the person that lost, so we give it back to him. He was the muhsik.
Either what?
He was the muhsik. Basically, we were talking about muhsik means I'm the current occupier. What happened? Let's go back in time to the scenario. Reuven was sitting on the land happily. Shimon suddenly pulls up with court papers and witnesses that belong to his father, and witnesses that he has a chazaka. I pull up with witnesses that have a chazaka, and my complaint that I belong to my father. So this was the machlokes of Nachman and Rava. What do we do now? So Rav Nachman ended up saying, we're going to, since the person who's trying to pull it out of your land has edus that it also belonged to his father, it's not a problem. We're going to knock out the edus of Achila, and he's left with edus that it belonged to his father. We took it away from him. So now when I come back with edus that it also belonged to my father, according to Tosfos, the scenario is we give it back to you, right? Because I was my occupier, you kicked me out of my land, we give it back. However, Rashbam says that wasn't dafka the scenario that you are muchzak. It's just regular two people arguing over a karka. We're going to see it. It's a sugya lamedal on the base. It talks about a hu arvadav mitzvah lebetray. Talking about a ship over there. Hi Amadidi, hi Amadidi. They're both saying it's mine. Nasach haminay lebedina v'amar, right? And he's going to start. We're going to see it in Yetzer Shem in a few dafs, and he's tining that it's his. We're going to have a shaila over there called al and gvar. But that's what's going on over here according to Rashbam. It's a scenario of like the ship, which we're going to see on lamedal on base, where it talks about.